Hi, how are you doing, guys? I am so happy and so glad to be back into doing my podcast, and I won't even take a lot of time. Today, I have a guest with me, and as I had shown in my previous videos, we'll be doing a lot of testimonies, hearing people's stories, getting to know where they come from, what God has done for them, and how they have healed through their journey. And today, I have a friend of mine, been friends for quite some time. Her name is Celine. Celine has had a very rough past, but God came through for her in an amazing way. And I don't even want to tamper with her story. She's going to share it. So you're welcome. And Celine, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome. And we'll just get right into it. I know a bit of Celine's story, how she grew up, got abandoned by her mom at some point, but we want to hear it from you, Celine. Tell us where your story begins.
Oh, my story begins a long time ago, not a long time ago, but as I was growing up, our dad and mom separated, and mom left us with dad, and I was only 4 years old when she left. And she left us with dad, who later passed on when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
So I was left with relatives, my dad's brothers, sisters, my grandparents, of course. And life changed for us because you used to be with your parents, and now you with everyone.
Yeah.
You're a child of everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're with relatives.
Yes.
So you can share a bit of your actual family, your nuclear family. How many children are you, like siblings, and which one are you?
I'm the firstborn.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know.
I am the firstborn, and apparently the only girl.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents, dad and mom, had three children. Me, my brother, and another brother who I never knew. He left with mom. He was only eight months old when mom left with him. So he left, and mom left us with Naum, the brother who follows me. Yeah, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So are you close with your brother now?
Yeah, we are close. Which one now?
The one who's following you, the one who never left.
Yes, the one.
The one who didn't
Of course, we grew up together, so we had to be close for the sake of.
Yeah, because now the parents are not there. And it's just the two of you.
Yes.
You are holding each other down.
Yes.
So Celine, at what point or at what age did mom leave? What age were you?
I was 4 years old when mom left, and I was 7 years old when dad passed on. He had an accident, a road accident, and he passed on. Yeah, and I keep saying at some point in that stage, my life changed because no one explained to me that dad has died. So it was like he went and never came back. And he was the only parent I was used to, and he loved us so much. He never came back. The only thing I saw were people in our house crying, and then I heard rumors that your dad had passed on. No one explained, and just it was. I remember seeing sand being thrown in a hole, and I realized we were burying my dad, and I didn't know what that was because at that point a 7-year-old does not comprehend such things. Yeah. So that is how he passed on, and I was left with relatives, which apparently they were his younger siblings. My dad was the firstborn, and now my grandparents, and I can't actually tell people about my childhood because I had a very abusive childhood, whereby my grandfather was a drunkard, and he used to insult us and abuse us every single day. In my ears, I've never seen my grandfather sober. And then my grandmother on the other side was born again. She was an evangelist. She was a pioneer of a church. And we used to have friends all in our house, as in prayerful people. She was so prayerful. And actually, I keep telling people at some point I was embarrassed as a teenager because my grandmother would pray in tongues.
Hey.
And you know our house is near the roadside, so she would pray and pray from morning till evening in tongues, like you're praying loudly. I didn't know I would become like her. So that was embarrassing. So you see, on one side, this is a born again person. On one side, this is a drunkard. You don't know.
Two very extremes.
Yes, you don't know where to belong to. As in, you're just there, and you've just been thrown in that cycle because you've come from a person who was loved, shielded, protected, and then you've been thrown there. And then I had my uncles who didn't know these children belong to us. Like, they have been given a responsibility. They were my dad's younger brothers and sisters. They have been given a responsibility, and they're there. They are just there, so they don't know who to take these children, where to take these children. They are just there. But life continued, and it was so hard for me when now my dad's cousins, they used to live with us, and you see those relatives who come from the shacks, from up country, and they want to live in Nairobi because they are schooling near they're in university. And we used to live in Luakabete, which is closer to town. So they have come from the village, and they started molesting me as young as 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. So I became a very closed child, and books became my friends. Novels. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of novels. I read a lot of Mills and Boons in class 4, 5, 6. Sidney Sheldon, Daniel Steele. So that became my reality. The books became my reality, and I would. It's like I built my world around them. Yeah. So, and I started bedwetting because now this trauma is too much for me. So I started bedwetting, and I wouldn't tell people that I'm bedwetting, not even my grandparents, because each time I tell, the parents of before, they didn't know how to handle us. I don't know if they didn't know how to be parents. I don't know. Their way of parenting was weird. So each time I bedwet, I would be beaten, I would be pinched. I have scars. Yeah, so I stopped. Everyone, because why are you bedwetting? You're big, you're 10 years, you're 11 years.
And they don't know.
They don't know why I am doing that, because these ones used to threaten me and say, if you tell someone that this is happening, we'll kill you. And we will kill you, and I'm a child. So what happened is I had my beddings. A worm started coming out of my beddings. Yeah, and I wouldn't tell anyone. So life continued for me. I became a quiet child, a very quiet child. And I went to high school, and in Form 1, in Form 2, Form 3, I keep saying that I met a person who said I love you, and that one was too expensive for me because I've not heard it from someone else. I've not heard it from the people who are bringing me up. I've not heard it from anyone else. And I fell in love. That was not in love, by the way. I fell hook, line, and sinker. And and within no time, I was 15 years, I got pregnant. Yeah. By the time I was having my first child, I was 16. I was in Form 4. And I remember when I had my first child and I went to hospital, and the doctor asked me, you are too young to be in hospital giving birth. And I joked and I told the doctor I did biology and I did it practically.
Oh, you did it practically.
Yeah. So I had my first child at 16, and
that is Form 2.
No,
right?
I was 16 in Form 4. Funny enough, yes. I was a very sharp child.
Okay.
So I didn't actually go to class 2. I was moved to class 3. Yeah. So I had my first child at 16. Actually, the 16th year turning to 17th is when I did my Form 4.
So you did your Form 4 when you're
almost 17.
And when you were pregnant?
Yes. No, I had already had my child.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I had my child in the 16th year.
In the 16th year?
Yes.
Now this you're turning 17 when you're
this I'm turning 17 when I'm
okay. Okay.
Because my year turns on December. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had my first child, and I sat for my KCSE. I would leave him with the father and go to school. And of course, he's a young man. He doesn't know how to be a father. So this is a responsibility.
So wait. So you moved in together with the guy?
Yeah. Okay. But I don't actually say that was a marriage, because it wasn't a marriage. Knowing what a marriage is today, that wasn't a marriage. Okay. It was cohabiting.
Oh, cohabiting.
It was a convenience.
And were you born again by then?
No, I was not born again.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I actually even hated God. You know why? Because this is my grandmother. She's so born again. She's speaking in tongues. She's preaching to people, and she has a husband who insults her every day. What kind of God is that? Yeah. So I actually didn't want to have a relationship with God. Yeah, so
now you've moved in with this guy.
Now I've moved in with this guy, and within no time, I was pregnant again.
Oh wow!
18 years. 18 years, 2 children. So by this time,
a teenager with
2 children, a teenager who does not know how to navigate around life, because the kind of upbringing you've had has been so traumatizing. Yeah. So here I am with my 2 children, a teenager, and a man who doesn't want to take responsibility properly. We're just there because it's convenient for you to be here. My grandmother had passed on at that time, because she passed on when I was pregnant with my first child.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no one to literally take care of me, except my aunt, who did her best.
Okay.
But she didn't have the means to. She didn't have money at that point.
Your aunt from your dad's side?
From my dad's side. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So life continued, and at some point, the guy got an opportunity and left for the US. No, at some point before he left, he had a relationship with my best friend. Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were still in high school when he left?
When he left for
the US?
No. By this
you
point,
had finished.
I had finished. I have another child.
Yeah.
And he's having a fling with my best friend.
With your best friend?
Yeah. And they actually have a child younger than my second child. So by the time...
So it was happening when you were still living with him?
Yes. So at some point when I realized that this guy is having a relationship with someone I know, I left. And I went back now to my family. And at that point, no one wants me. Because you have a child.
You have children?
You have children. No, you have a child. You're pregnant with another one.
Okay.
Yeah, so what happened is I went back home and went to the house where my grandmother used to live in. But this time, my grandfather had moved into another house, a new house. So I was given that small house, and I started doing casual jobs. I was pregnant, very pregnant, and nobody cared. I actually didn't go for any antenatal clinic for that child.
Oh.
And I've had CS with my first child. Well, so when labor came, I just locked the door and went inside. I told God, this is it. You either kill me, because I want to die, and just kill my children, because how am I going to live? Because who is going to take care of even this one you gave me before? So I just locked the door and went through labor for 3 good days alone in that house. And on the 3rd day, I remember I screamed and blacked out. That was it. By the time I came back, I had given birth to another.
Wait, you lost your consciousness?
Yes.
When you're giving birth.
Yes.
So how did you push the baby out?
I think I pushed the baby because of the pain. I blacked out.
No one taking care of it. No one
was
receiving the
there.
baby.
No one was. Absolutely no one. I was alone with my first child. For 3 good days, I labored, I cried, I begged God to kill us. For 3 good days, no food, nothing.
Because you don't even have money to take
you
to
don't even
hospital.
have money to take me to hospital. You don't even have anyone you can call. And then you know it's so shameful. Huh? You having a baby who is barely 2 years, and then you're pregnant, and you're 18. Nobody would want to hear your story.
They say so hii msiba wa kujitakia.
Yes, haustahili kilio. And that was me at that point. So when I came back, someone had me scream, and she's the one who picked the child and did all those things, the necessary thing, so cutting the cord and all that.
So you want to tell me, like, in this homestead that your grandfather was in, like, no one came to check on you?
There were people. Actually, they would just pass.
Seeing you in that state?
Yeah. Yeah. There were people.
Okay.
So, but I keep saying God took care of me. It's only that I was not born again, so I couldn't see. And I gave birth to my child. And I remember I pulled a baby shawl I had kept as my head pillow, and that bed was full of, what do you call them, bed bugs? Because my auntie had died on that bed, and she had been sick, bedridden. So you can imagine that mattress and all that were full of bed bugs and all that. So you would come to hold my child, and bed bugs would start appearing on the shawl. Yeah, that was basically my life. And life continued. And at some point I decided, no, let me go back to my husband, because this is too much.
Your husband. Yeah.
At least there we could eat.
Yeah.
So I went back to him, and God opened doors for him, and he traveled to the US, and he was there. And life changed for us, by the way. He would send money, he would support us for 2 years. Then he decided to come back and see us. And when he came back, I got pregnant again. We talked, and we said, let's have another baby.
Yeah.
So
this one was agreement.
Yeah, this one was agreement, because at this point we have money. I had businesses. I had a business. I had bought a plot and was rearing, and what do you call them?
What?
Domestic animals. I was rearing pigs. So there was someone.
Dairy farming.
Dairy farming.
Okay.
Yeah. So we spoke, and we decided to have another baby, and things changed again. Dude decided, now this is it. As soon as I got pregnant, I changed. Started bringing women into the house.
So now he's back from the US.
Yeah.
He's made money.
But he'll go back eventually.
Okay.
But he wants to spend money now by spending it the wrong way with women. He would come home. I had a problematic pregnancy, whereby the doctor asked me to have total bed rest.
Okay.
Yeah, so I closed down my business and all that. I went back to the house, and he started bringing women in my house. He would actually ask me to leave our bed and sleep on the couch, as he went to our bedroom with women. And I had nowhere to go, because I have 2 children. I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Where do I go? Where?
And home is just a mess.
I was 23. So I just told God, this is now you and me. Do whatever you want to do. But at some point, I remember it was a holiday, and he brought home 3 women, and it was in the wee hours of the morning, because it was around 4. So it was a holiday, and the children were home, and they were making a lot of noise in the bedroom, and I wanted now to tell them to now at least tone down because of the children. It's a holiday and the children are home. So I went to the bedroom, I knocked on the door, and he came out, he slapped me, and I rolled down the stairs. I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh.
And that is the day I left him, and I left with my 2 children and my pregnancy. He threw money at me and told me, go and have an abortion.
Was the money enough?
It was around 20,000 Kenya shillings.
You have an abortion at what? How many months in?
That was 5 months pregnant.
That's a whole baby.
Yeah, that's a whole baby. So I remember I just took my children, took the money and left. And the first thing I did is I went to church and I cried to God and I held my baby and told God, this baby will be a blessing.
Amen.
So with the 20,000, I looked for a small house. I used to live in a 500 shillings house.
Where is that? Where in Nairobi is that? 500 bob.
You can get a 500. That was 2017, 20, around there.
Okay.
So it
was not in the 1900s. People can think that
it's Kitambo. That was 2018. Actually 2019. Yeah, 2019. Not 2019, no. 2009. Sorry.
2009.
Sorry, 2009, yeah.
Because I'm trying to think how the babies are now big.
That was 2009.
Okay, 2009.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 2009. And in the outskirts of Nairobi, Loakabete, I got a house for 500 shillings. And now I started living life with my children. And I knew between this money, this is the only thing I have. I have to start either a business. I look for a job, whereby you cannot get a job when you're pregnant.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's showing.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I knew I had to start something for my children. And I with some little money, I looked for a mattress and beddings and a stove, some utensils and all that. And we started living, and I started a business of buying charcoal in wholesale. I would go to Narok to get charcoal and then sell to retailers.
You go to Narok unachiwa watoto?
Narok, you go in the morning, you come back in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my son now was so used to now doing those things, taking care of his younger brother. But this time he was around 7. Yeah, so that is what I started doing, and my business did well. I did so well in business, and until I gave birth to my daughter, it was another CS, and she was so beautiful. And I remember the first time I laid my eyes on her, I told God, just thank you.
Wow.
Because this one, I could have miscarried, aborted, or anything.
Especially being thrown like down the stairs. And
so I knew she was a gift, and I went back home with her, and within 3 months I now started thinking about another business, because there was no way I was going to sit down. There's no way I was going to sit down and let my children now suffer the way I had suffered. And I researched, I did my research and decided now to start another business. And I had a friend in Sudan, and she was doing business there, and she introduced me to the business. So I would buy clothes from Isli and take them to Southern Sudan. And the business did so well. I had a lot of money.
Wow.
We moved houses. I took my children to a good school and all that. And I don't know, when misfortune starts locating you, especially when you're not born again, the devil will play football with you until he finishes you. So at some point, I bought a second-hand phone, which unfortunately was a stolen phone, and I was tracked. And I remember the flying squad came for me, and they found me in Nyahas. I had gone to apply for my passport. And the way they just held me and took me to Central Police Station, I didn't know what was happening. They explained to me later.
When you were in the station?
When I was in the station. So I was in the station from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So which year is this?
That was 2015.
2015.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they that was end of 2014.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was taken to court, and I took a plea of not guilty. So whenever you take a plea of not guilty, you either given a cash bail so you can do your case outside, and or taken to remand.
Yeah.
So I did a plea of not guilty, and I was given a cash bail of 150, which was small money to me because I had money at that point.
You were balling.
So what I did is I called my best friend at that point, and I told her, take my ATM, go withdraw money, because you cannot withdraw a whole 150. You either give me some of your money or wait until tomorrow, you can withdraw some more. She disappeared. She actually disappeared with
your money.
Yes. I never saw her. I didn't see her again. And I was in Langata, a remand for 1 year, 8 months. Not knowing where my children are. My daughter was only 2 years old at that point.
So when this the flying squad was coming for you, were you at your house? Were you in your house?
No, I was at Nyayo house.
You were taking your passport?
Yes.
So the kids...
Yes.
No one knows where they are?
Yes.
And now your friend has...
disappeared. The kids, I have left them with a nanny. I remember I had a person who was taking care of them, because now I was in business and I used to travel a lot. So here I am in prison, and let me tell you something. In prison, you can't even make a call if you don't have money. So absolutely no one knows where you are. She didn't tell anyone. She just disappeared. So at some point I told God, now this one I leave to you, because I cannot be where my children are. And then you get depressed, You heal in prison because others are coming, and they have got so many years. But I kept saying, I envied those who had years, because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I'm in remand. My case is ongoing. I don't know for how long. So at some point, I got born again in prison.
In prison?
Yes, I got born again in prison, and I actually I hated God so much in prison. As in, I kept asking him, why are you taking me? Why are you doing this to me? I felt like this is God doing all these things to me. And
is it's sad how we know that God is good.
Yes.
Now you know. Then you didn't know, but how we know that God is good and the devil is bad and the enemy is bad. But anytime you have an issue, it's always on God. This God that you call good. Like there's very little times that I have seen people go like, the devil is a bad devil. How is he touching my finances? How is he touching my marriage? How is he touching my relationships? Like it's always on God. It's so sad.
It's so sad. And I keep thinking it's because at some point we don't have the broad knowledge of who God is. We keep assuming, we keep saying he's good, but we don't have the broad knowledge of who God. Also, we ignore the devil a lot. And sometimes when I read the Old Testament, it shows those people attributed so many things to God because the devil loves to hide. They didn't know the devil. They didn't know the devil so much. So everything, every calamity,
it was God.
It was God. And then, but then it was the devil. It's just that he loves to hide, and he's so crafty.
So he hides behind ignorance.
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on. Now you're in prison. You're
in prison. I'm getting to know God. No, one afternoon I said, let me go listen to some preachers. I don't want to sleep. Let me just go and pass time there. It's always a privilege to go to such a place in prison. So I went that afternoon, and I felt like God was telling me, this was for me. As in what they preached, how they preached, that was for me. And it's actually, I felt a very strong hard pushing me to go forward. And that is how I got born again. And believe it or not, after I got born again, 2 days later I was out of prison.
Wow.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I went to court, and the judge said my case has there's no evidence.
Wow.
And he set me free.
After 1 year,
After 1 year, 8 months, I was out of prison.
So how was the journey between you coming out of prison to you getting home to you looking for your children? Like, how do you even start?
That's another story, because when I left prison, whenever you leave prison, when the judge says go home, you have nothing on you. You don't even have money. You have nothing. You'd rather be in prison and they let you out, because at least you can tell someone, because there are people in prison who have money. You can even tell a warden, I don't have money, so where am I going? But here in court, there's absolutely no one you can tell. So I walked from Milimani Low Court and I was very sick. I had typhoid, I had amoeba, I was very thin. Imagine me weighing around 54 kgs. I was very thin. And I was so sick. So I walked up to Koja. That's where matatus are.
To Lower Kabete.
And I remember there's one town boy who knew me, and he asked me, where have you been? I haven't seen you for a very long time. And I told him, I've been around. And he said, you look sick. I told him, yes, I'm sick. And he asked me, how can I help you? And I told him, the only way you can help is by buying me a bottle of water and giving me 50 shillings so I can go to Kabete.
Wow.
And he did exactly that. And when I went, I started a journey of now looking for my children. Because, of course, they are not in the rental house I left them in. And when I went to that rental house, the landlord asked me, you didn't leave your children with me? So it's now looking for my children, and I realized that my children were living with people here, people there. They were just jumping from one person to another.
They don't have a family. They don't know where their money is.
Yes.
How old are they at that point?
At that point, my daughter was 2 years. 4 years. I'd left her when she was 2 years.
Yeah.
She's 4 now. My son was around 10 or 11. The other one was around 9. So they're children, they're still babies. Yeah, so I found them with a friend. And when the friend saw me, she pretended to be happy. And I thought, now my friend is happy for me. And
I hope this is not the same friend who
no, not that one.
Okay.
Not that one. I've not even located that one at that point. So she told me, now that you have come, take your children and go. Where was I going to go? It was around 3 or 4. And she said she didn't want me there. Of course, I understood her stigma. You've been in prison. I don't want anything to do with you, so just go. And I went to the only other place I knew, the church. And with my children, and I spoke to the pastor, the church I used to fellowship. And he listened to me, and he listened to me, and he listened to me. Then he gave me 100 shillings and told me, go find a place, because I don't have a place I can offer you. And make sure you don't get pregnant. It's the only thing he could tell me, because you've been in prison. So I took my children, and I started the life of sleeping in the streets.
Celine, you've slept in
the
streets.
Yes. And I would wait for, you see these vibandas, I would wait for the women to finish selling their wares, and then I would sleep. And most of the time, my children would now, because they are not used to that life of sleeping in the streets, they would still go to those friends. And God gave them favor, because they were not turned away. So most of the time, they were sleeping with those friends.
And then you sleep alone.
And then I sleep alone, because I don't want to be a burden to anyone. And also, I want I want them at least to take care of my children and not me. So I used to sleep there and wake up in the morning, go look for casual jobs. Whenever I got money, a lot of money, would sleep in lodgings. But I didn't have enough money to now rent a house. See, renting a house is starting from so, and while I was sleeping there, one night, I keep saying that I was gang raped, sleeping there, and by several men, and I keep saying that those people had come from maybe a stealing spree. They had no intention whatsoever. They didn't even know they would find someone there. And there were so many of them, and they chanced on me, and they pulled me from under the shed. That shed, and then they gang raped me. They took turns on me. They would even put their gun in my mouth. Around 12 of them, and then they left me
12?
There. Yeah. And then they left me there. And they took nothing. I had like a small phone. Okay, small. So in the morning I called a friend of mine, and she took me to Kenyatta. That's where I was treated. The first thing they did is they took me to theater, and that is where I was treated for the whole of 2016. I was treated at KNH.
So this, the gang rape happened within CBD, or it was just in
the outskirts? In the outskirts of Nairobi.
Okay.
Yeah. So 2016, I was treated at KNH, and I went for counseling, which was not helping me. And at this point, I had even forgotten I was born again, because I was born again, yes, but no one had taught me about God.
No discipleship.
Yes.
No accountability.
No accountability.
No holding your hand.
Yeah, you're just living your life like just any other person.
Because after all, you were born again in prison.
Yes.
So, like after prison, people don't know you. You don't even know church. Like where are you running to be discipled?
Exactly. And then there's so much you're holding on from. Teenage pregnancy, abandonment issues, all those things. And you don't know who to speak to. So whenever I went for counseling, I would start counseling the counselor.
Allah.
And they would start telling me their stories, marital issues. And I'm here and I'm like, I came for counseling. Why are you telling me your problems? And I would laugh with them. And so
that is called counter transference in psychology. Now the counselor transferring their own what they are relating with to you, to the client, instead of like listening.
And so it happened like that. And at 2017, there's this friend of mine I had met in prison, and she was building an organization, and she told me, Celine, she is the same person now who looked for help for me, and a certain church, a certain church came through for me. They took me from the street, they paid my rent, my children went back to school, they would shop for me every Thursday, and they would give me money to go for therapies. Also another friend of mine would give me money to go for therapies. So in 2017, the organization had started coming up, and this friend of mine told me, Celine, why don't you come? We work together, since this is something for people who have been in prison. And I went to that organization, and they took me to the children department. There are children who accompany their mothers in prison. And I was in that department. And I remember December 2017, I was so tired on that day, because I had spent the day now sending gifts to children in prisons all over the country. And around 9:30, I remember the last parcel I sent it to Kakamega via Easy Coach.
Okay.
So I left Easy Coach and I went home. And just a few meters from my gate, I saw 3 guys. I saw some guys sitting there. And I said, maybe these are people who know me. And they were wearing hoods and dark things.
Yeah.
And they said hi, I hi back. And they asked me to stand. And I told them, why are you asking me to stand? And they said, if you dare take a step, we will kill you. I knew now here, these are thieves.
So this is around what time?
Around 9:30 to 10. Yeah. So I said, these are thieves.
Yeah.
And I started now, I removing my bag from my shoulder to give to them.
Yeah. Because they thought that was what they wanted.
And they said, who said you want your bag? I had money in that handbag because I still carried money to send gifts.
Yeah.
I'm not finished to send. So I had around 20,000 with me. And I had another phone, my son's phone. And they didn't take it. They asked me to follow them. And they said, if you dare speak to a person, to someone on the way, we will kill you. One had a gun slung on this side and an overcoat. So I followed them and they took me to a place I knew, a river, but the river was dry. It had not rained for so long in 2017. So they just, there's a big rock. Some rivers, just before you get to the river, there's a very big rock. Like it's on the ground. And they laid me there, they gang raped me. They tore my clothes, they gang raped me, they sodomized me. And then they put sticks in me at some point because because of the pain, I blacked out. And when I came back, they had left and they had cut me with a razor. I don't know if it was a razor or something. I was bleeding. Yeah, so they left and they had put my head in my handbag.
So they didn't take it?
They didn't take it. I pulled the handbag and I looked for my phone and I called my sister-in-law, married to my brother. And I told her, this is what is happening. This is where I am. You guys come. If I'm able to remove the sticks, I'll crawl to where you are. But if I'm not able, you guys look for someone so that you can come and get me. And they came. The first thing when you do when you're raped is report. They took me to the police station. And I remember when the policeman saw me, he cried. He said, no, this one, I won't even write a report now. Just take her to hospital, Nairobi Women. And I was taken to Nairobi Women. I was in Nairobi Women. I actually spent my Christmas 2017 in hospital. Yeah. And
so I'm just wondering at this point what's going on in your mind. This was your second gang rape.
Yes.
What's going on in your mind as a new believer, as a mom leaving your children again for the second time? They don't know where you are. They don't know that has happened to you. Yeah. You've left them in the house.
Yes.
What's going on in your mind at this point?
Nothing. Absolutely none. I am numb from all the pain. Like, you see, a series of things have happened and I had lost my right to feel. I was an emotional. And I felt like this is me. This is how life is supposed to be. Yeah. So I was living in every time I'm expecting something bad to happen to me. Yeah. So I had lost my right to feel. I didn't even think about salvation at that time. I didn't even want to reach out to God because this person who is looking at me going through all these issues, why can't he help me? And I had blocked everything. Yeah. So the only thing that was keeping me from losing sanity were my children, because I felt like the fight I was fighting so that my children don't have to go through the things I have gone through. That is the only thing that was keeping me from committing suicide, from going insane, from everything. Yeah. And so I was in Nairobi Women.
So it's Christmas.
It's Christmas. Yeah. And after some time I was discharged and I went back home. Life continued for me. Like, I don't even want to speak about it to my friends. Like, this is normal. this is normal. Yeah.
It's not the first time that
It's not the first time. You see, when the devil is playing with you, he'll even make you think the things that are not normal are normal. Yeah. Like this is how you're supposed to live. Because he's playing on your identity. He wants to give you another identity of this is who you are.
Yeah.
These are things that are supposed to happen in your life.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is like
he's trying to define it, to give you an identity.
Yes.
The way you've said.
He's trying to define it actually. So life continued. I went back to work. Now at this point, I was taken to I went for training. I trained on coaching. So I was taken to another department of coaching, and I went to coach in Langata Women Prison, the same place I was in.
How many years later?
This was how many years later? From 2016 to 2018.
So when you're going to coach, I'm just thinking, how is your heart? How is your heart? You're going to coach, but how is your heart at this point?
I don't have a heart at this point.
You're not even thinking about it?
I'm not even thinking about it. Yeah. But I had trauma of that place because I knew the things that had happened there. But I was so used to blocking so many things, so I blocked it. So we had this training at Langata Women Prison, and we did it for 1 month. And I was still on drugs to prevent HIV.
Yeah.
So, when you're gang raped, they give you drugs to prevent.
Yeah.
So I was on medication. So we did that training for that whole month. And I remember when they graduated, we were asked to stay home for maybe 1 week just to rest. There's this friend of mine I had not seen for a long time. She stays in Greece, and she had come to visit. So I took this as an opportunity to see her. And the day that we were given an off is the day she was leaving that night. So she called me at night, the night before, and asked me, Celine, I've not seen you, and I'm going back tomorrow. Let's come and let's have lunch with your children at my mom's place. So we were there the whole day. We had fun and all that. I helped her back. So she left for the airport, and my children said they are going with my aunt to her place. My aunt was there, so they went with her. And it was so rainy. It was a rainy day, raining so hard. And I had moved now from my previous house to another house, but I couldn't go far because my son was in class 8. And at that time, you cannot move a child in class 8 because he's going to high school, and you have to wait until he finishes class 8. So I didn't move far away, but I had moved to a new house. And in the middle of the night, lights had gone. Yeah, so I had people in my house. And I actually, they took a torch and shone it in my eyes. I was asleep, and I remember I blacked out, as in I became blank, because now this trauma is reacting. It's been 4 months now.
At that point.
And here are people. What do they want? And I remember the only thing I told them is, please don't take me to the river, because it was raining so hard. And I knew this time if they take me to that river, they'll kill me. And they pulled me from my bed. They took me to my sitting room. They tore my clothes, and they gang raped me. They gang raped me for hours. They gang raped me. They sodomized me. They strangled me. They broke my glass, and they cut me. And they were laughing. They were...
How many were there?
There were 6 of them. Yeah. And I remember when they left, I just sat there and told God, you should have killed me. Because this is too much. The shame, the pain, you should have killed me. If this is what you want, you should have killed me. And I decided I will not... I'm bleeding so much. I said I will not call anyone. But then I thought about my children, and nobody was picking my calls. So I wrote a post on Facebook, And I wrote that if you're in this place and you can see my message, please call me. And you have my number, please call me. No one called me. I realized later that people saw that post. No one called me. And only a friend of mine, someone who was in Nairobi. I was in Kabete. He was in Nairobi. He was not even a friend. He was a Facebook friend. Saw that post and came. He came from Nairobi and he took me to hospital. I was admitted again, and the first thing they did is take me to theatre. At that point, I couldn't even walk. They had hit me here. I couldn't walk, and my head also. Yeah, and I knew I was done, and I said, if you would have come to hospital, I was laughing like it's normal, but I had so much pain in me. There's so much pain I was carrying, and after now the hospital, I moved now. My son had completed. I left him with my aunt. Yeah, because it was April when I moved, and KCPE was on November. So I left him with my aunt and moved to a totally new place. And I went for therapy for so long. And at some point, the doctor asked me to see a psychiatrist at Mathare Hospital. Because I was bordering between sanity and insanity. I had crazy panic attacks, anxiety. I would sometimes go to Nairobi, be crossing the road, and then I get a panic attack, and then you stand in the middle of the road because you can't move. And I used to wake up in the morning, prepare my daughter for school. You see, my son, the other son I had left with my aunt, the other one was in boarding school, was in high school at this time. So I only had my daughter with me. I would prepare my daughter for school. I wouldn't leave the house or even take a shower. I never drew my curtains. I loved darkness. She would go to school. She'll come in the evening. I'll send her to the shop. She'll buy food, and then I'll cook and then go back to sleep. That was basically my life. Nobody. Actually, my neighbors didn't even know me. They did, because I used to peep at them at the window, and then whenever I want to go somewhere, I'd wait for them to leave, so that I'll make sure nobody speaks to me.
This is shame.
Yeah.
Drawing you into depression.
Yes. And
so let me just ask.